Well, alright, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast with your hosts, Kevin and Chuck. Alright, today we're going to talk about personal privacy, how to protect yourself, your family, your home, but more, your information.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell us what you think, Kevin. Where are we going today?
Well, I think it's a big concern with a lot of people, just not the government. So we got to kind of protect yourself because, you know, Big Brother out there that's always trying to help you out, taxing you so that they can give you money back when you need it, making sure you have retirement funds, and making sure you have all that stuff. They're not really watching out for you. So it's kind of something we got to do ourselves.
So, when it comes to protecting ourselves, there's a lot to cover.
It's probably going to be a long episode. What I wanted to start out talking about is Edward Snowden, who's
Edward Snowden.
One of the champions of personal privacy.
A champion of privacy and a big leader when it comes to controversy.
A lot of people hate him.
All right,
they do.
People
call him a traitor. I listened to an interview with him not too long ago with Neil deGrasse Tyson on Neil's podcast.
Yes.
And he was talking about how he had a commitment to keep that information secret, but he also swore an oath to protect the Constitution. And he said that trumped his all his other things, and that's why he let the information out. A lot of people say that he, put America in a dangerous place, but I'd say we were in a dangerous place before he started talking.
I think we were in a dangerous place before he started talking. The other thing, it seems to me, when it goes back to that Ben Franklin quote of, would you trade your safety for security?
Right.
And, and when you give that up, you deserve neither. And that's really it. And, you don't have anything if you give it all up. And that's the thing. I mean, what are you defending and protecting? Why even, what makes, America isn't different if we don't have freedom.
Right. And if you're not using it, saying that you don't use the First Amendment so it should be abolished is ridiculous. And same thing goes with privacy. If you're if you're protecting yourself, you need to keep an eye on what you're doing.
Now, does it all come down to paranoia? I mean, I don't see, the people in the black masks coming and kicking in the doors, and here we are making our podcast. We're talking about the world. I guess they're not out for the public yet, so maybe they will be. I don't know.
Well, it's a series of small encroachments, and before you know it, you're living in a police state, and we're getting pretty damn close compared to how we were living 50 years ago.
It really has changed. Definitely the internet, it's been a blessing and kind of a curse.
Yep. A lot of the things that we want to talk about is not just necessarily the government spying on you, but just personal, what you're doing with your personal information.
All right, corporate companies looking into you,
keeping track of you.
Your bank accounts, people from Russia, China, stealing, basically trying to take your stuff.
Yeah, taking your money.
And I don't
like that. You don't want to go to your bank and realize that there's nothing in it all of a sudden.
Luckily, I try not to keep anything there anyway. And maybe I'm not trying to do that.
Right.
But there isn't anything there.
Bounce, then,
so, all right. Yeah. I try and make it hard for the bad guy. That's what I'm doing when I keep the bank account low.
Now, one of the things I do that I've always done, just because I'm a paranoid person.
You are paranoid, so
I burn all my mail.
All right.
Everything that's paper goes.
I burn my mail as well, so I would have to agree with you.
You have to be careful because once that trash can is on the side of the street, that's public property. Anybody can go in there and take that bag out. And if you've ever gone to your neighbor's house and taken a bag of trash and gone to an empty lot and ripped it open, you could find out all sorts of things about it.
You've had some experience with that? I didn't know.
I'm just saying, if you ever are in a vendetta with somebody, that would be
a good starting point.
So, if you're ever in a vendetta with somebody, that whether you know or don't know about the vendetta, you need to be careful about that trash.
I do have a book, The Black Book of Revenge. I don't know if you've seen
I've
this
seen
on the
some of
internet.
that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But that's for another day. We'll save the revenge
Save the
for
revenge
another day.
things. All right.
All right. Not bad. What else?
Well, we were talking about a couple of different things. One of the things, obviously, is internet security. My personal take on it would be to stay off the internet and get rid of your Facebook page. But most people aren't going to do that.
No.
I myself have a Facebook page that I try and keep fairly private. But, just because they're on your friends list doesn't mean they're your friend.
Really? Now, I always see, like, on Facebook, you'll get these friend requests, and I don't know, you basically, somebody will show up and say, hey, I want to be your friend, but you look at their profile, and there's, like, the cover photo, and then nothing.
And nothing. Yeah.
And I always see, like, I know I've seen in my people that follow me, they'll be like, oh, if anybody gets a request from this guy, don't do it. I think he's a government agent. Look at his profile is not based on anything. Now, is the government really that dumb they can't put a bunch of stupid pictures? Because I'm not really sure that the government's that stupid, but maybe they are.
In my experience is as dumb as you might think the government is, that's not usually the case.
No.
They usually play dumb. Oh, it was an accident. We didn't mean to blow that building up. Yeah, no, they meant to blow that building up.
That has been my experience.
If they want to fuck you, they can fuck you.
All right,
your
I
Facebook
think
page and your
key
browser history isn't going to be the downfall.
I hope not, because and that's the thing. Like, definitely not a lot of personal stuff about my family on Facebook. But I know that our podcast, when we're trying to get things together, Prepper Survival on Facebook, I like to put a lot of neat stuff, draw in the right people to hopefully find our podcast and share a little bit about what we're into. And, I definitely put some things on there that could be construed as somebody who's into survival, military, self-preparedness.
You're on the
which
list.
Puts me on Homeland Security lists,
Right.
Was it Janet Napolitano from Homeland Security, who's not there anymore, but she was all about if somebody's a veteran, they should be on that list.
Right.
And, people who need to be watched. Now, speaking of watching, I know you had some concerns. You were starting off to tell us about Edward Snowden. What are you thinking?
Well, I think he's got a lot. He brings out a lot of great points. And you kind of need to be concerned about it. If your information is being collected, every place you go, every website you go to, you need to be conscientious of what you're looking at on the internet, which is a little bit scary because that's where we get our information these days. Not very many people go to the library anymore, and there aren't very many books on the topics that you and I might be interested in anyway.
Right.
But anything you want to find out, whether it's about gardening or about firearms, you can find it on the internet real quick.
It is on the internet. You might find it on my webpage. No, exactly.
And they're collecting it. They're stockpiling it. They don't have the time to go through every single person's information. But if
there are computers that do that.
They will look. They will take a look. And odds are, if you're listening to this, you fit some of the criteria for a terrorist.
So you're saying you don't want to give money to Glenn Beck?
Don't donate
or
money.
maybe
do it in a blank envelope with cash.
Blank envelope with cash. You always hear. I think on Glenn Beck he talks about people sending him envelopes with 32 cents or something. He always finds it touching. I'm not really sure. I think it's people just messing with him. I'm not sure, but either way, that might be you sending him the 32 cents.
I got a whole jar full of pennies. I'm trying to figure out what to do with. Maybe Glenn Beck needs it.
That's it. Or Alex Jones, he's a little bit of a nut job. How does that put you on the list?
Yeah, well, everybody's putting you on a list. You're on a list of one sort or another.
Or if you're listening to the Survival and Basic Badass podcast.
You want to be on the bottom of the list, not the top of the list. So let's talk about some ideas on how to keep you off the lists and how to keep, the nefarious characters out there, the Nigerian princes and all that sort of stuff from getting your
Nigerian princes. All right. Well, one thing, like you said, to back up what you're saying about, the internet tracking everything you have, I know as I have several websites myself, and different things, and they do all kinds of tracking with Google Analytics, and it'll tell me, oh, all the people that came to your website, they're from this country, they're males, 80% males, 80% or 20% female, and blah blah blah. It'll go through, it'll tell you what ethnic background, but it goes so much deeper than that. It's not just the surface stuff. They also can collect just about anything. You can when I do Facebook ads, I can target, I just want to run ads to people who are friends with the NRA or like the NRA page. Mm-hmm. I can do ads that are, they're former veterans. You can select right down to the smallest demographic, and obviously Facebook is keeping track of that.
Yeah, Facebook
and your web
is
pages. Think about when I was saying when I go look at maybe Duluth Trading and I look at a t-shirt, I might get that. And then I get bored, change my mind, don't do it, whatever. Or I decide I'm going to hold off. I don't think about it. Sure enough, 2 days later, I'm browsing. There on the right side of the screen is the exact shirt that I looked at saying, we have it in stock at Duluth Trading. Well, how do you think that Google knows that?
Right.
I used to do...
And if you think we're full of shit, keep track of the ads.
Pay attention, yeah. I remember hearing an article, or reading an article way back, and this lady was saying she used Gmail. And when she'd type in, she'd be like, I wore my blue jeans that were Levi's with whatever and whatever. And sure enough, she started getting ads that actually had, the blue jeans that met the exact description that were in her personal email. I mean, I say personal, but it's Gmail.
Right.
It's not that personal.
Anything to do with Google,
and
you need to be very careful
but
about.
If you watch, I mean, definitely, I can set up ads with Google AdSense that will target the previous websites that you've been visiting. Mm-hmm. So if you've been online and, in the last... 34 websites or whatever it is that you've been to, you went and looked for mortgage opportunities. Strange coincidence, you're going to see mortgage ads on the right side in my Google AdSense. I don't select what ads, they just show up based on your browsing history.
Right. And that can be beneficial if you're a consumer.
It makes it convenient because you know what? Hey, I was interested in getting a mortgage.
But I don't feel like that's necessarily the only person that is ever going to go through that information. Maybe right now that's all that it's being used for, but who knows who's going to be running things.
But it's very easily collected, and that's the thing. And my point is, even if a small-time internet guy like me can collect all this information, then somebody like Google or the NSA or a Russian spy ring or somebody who has $200,000 because they just emptied somebody's bank account, they can collect a lot more because they have better resources than I do. I can spend $90 and set up software to collect all your information. So I think they can take it a little bit further.
Now, do you ever Google yourself?
I don't Google myself. I'm afraid of it.
I did. I'm fairly good. There's apparently a lot of people with my same name that do a lot more interesting things than I do. So that's good. But, one thing that I try and be wary of is what personal information do you use on Facebook? Do you put your real date of birth on there?
All right.
The real town you live in?
I don't have the real date of birth on there.
Really?
Although, what's awkward is a ton of my friends say happy birthday at the freaking time. I even get calls. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, it's your birthday on Facebook. I saw it. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's awkward.
Yep.
And, and that's definitely true.
I
definitely have the wrong...
That, one thing that a lot of people don't think about is when it comes to those things, you can lie. You can just make things up.
Really?
And it probably wouldn't be bad to have, a couple of false email addresses that you use for... stuff like that when you lose your password and things like that. Now let me ask you this: when you lose your password, do they ask you a security question to make sure it's you?
I've been asked security questions.
I've had that too. It asked me my mother's maiden name and the street I grew up on, and maybe those are other places you
your
might
first
like
guy.
lie.
I don't know.
Maybe
Yeah,
those
did you
are
ever
things wanna
get,
lie about.
when you're doing the loan applications, it's funny, they'll go through your credit report, and I mean, that's where I assume they get the information. I don't really know. But it'll be like, in 1986, you owned a car. What was it? And have you seen these? And where it's something not, and I'm not talking about where they ask you your questions of, a security question. I mean, just totally out of nowhere, something you haven't thought about or considered, in the last 20 years.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, oh, you had a car loan for something in this
Right.
year. What was it? And you're like, whoa.
You know more about
so
me
they
than
are
I do.
watching.
I don't even know.
I don't remember what I had, That's just a gamble. But
I try and wreck my cars on a yearly basis. I've been in 5 or 6 car accidents.
sounds
So,
right.
I
Actually, I think you've crashed some of my cars now that I think about it. Two?
Two of the car accidents were your cars.
The one was technically your car in my name, and the other one was just my car, and you just
Right.
didn't care.
Just
All
fuck
right.
them up. That's what cars are for, man.
All right. Lesson learned,
Uh-huh. Actually, only
No, there's
2
more
of
than
the
one?
5 accidents were actually my cars. So that's the good. That's the way to do it. That's the way
Nice.
to do it.
So, anyway, the reason for the big conversation there is we want to make it clear people are watching.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, you go to the grocery store. You have the, Price Chopper card, Stop and Shop, whatever it is, that Piggly Wiggly, I don't know what there is next to you, but, you go to the grocery store, bam, that's linked to your checking account. They know who you are. They know what products you're purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there.
And let me tell you, most of the time when you go to the grocery store and they ask you if you have a card, you can tell them you left it at home and they'll scan the one they have right there. That 78 cents
I
you're
have
saving
taken
might be
advantage.
worthwhile for you because it does add up.
It does add up.
But maybe you should just use cash anytime you buy anything.
No, that's what I like. Let's talk about cash.
Mm-hmm.
So, one, you probably don't want to keep all your cash in the bank because, as we've talked about, your bank account may not be as secure as you were thinking it is.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to find out, bank account information, that's public information.
Yeah.
You can look up anybody and find out how much money they have in the bank.
I don't like that.
No,
I find a
it's
little bit disturbing.
spooky, right?
No. Obviously, you put yourself at risk a little bit carrying around a lot of cash.
Mm-hmm.
I always get nagged by my wife because she's like, oh, you're walking out of the bank, you have $500 in your hand, whatever.
Right.
You got to be more discreet about that. And she thinks I'm an ass because I'm like, you know what? If I can get a little fighting practice, even if I get my ass kicked,
Right.
if all it
You're
costs
gonna
me
learn
is
something.
$500, I'm like, that's pretty cool. I said,
Uh-huh.
I'll take a fight
'Cause you'll
for
be less
$500.
likely- You're less likely to lose the next one after
I was like,
that.
I
You
could
lose the
get,
first
I
one.
can legitimately kick somebody's ass for only $500 and not have consequences. I'm like, that sounds like something I'm into. I like those odds.
Right.
And she gets all mad at me. Well, that's not right. You shouldn't. And
Hey,
now she
listen,
doesn't
we
bring
should
it up anymore.
Always be looking for a fight.
She
you know?
doesn't bring it up anymore because she's always like, "Oh, you're whipping out the cash." But again, you want to take care of yourself. They always say,
And you don't
the
know
best
who
way-
that person is that you're dealing with. either.
exactly. You never know who has a gun, who has what. Could be me that has the gun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know. You
But-
never know.
But that's the thing is, they say, when it comes to, swinging at somebody or dodging a punch or whatever, you've already lost the fight because you shouldn't have put yourself in that position.
Right.
And we all know that, but hey, we all like to test ourselves and get to that level. So, no, I understand where I'm coming from. Sorry, we covered, grocery stores. Same thing I was telling you earlier that you go and you use your check card at the grocery store or whatever, and they say, oh, or usually it's like the sporting goods store, whatever. Oh, can I get your zip code? And you're like, oh, well, that doesn't matter, whatever.
Right.
It
What
turns
is it?
out,
Why
you
do
would
they want
think,
that?
now logic is, you would think, oh, they have my credit card number. They must be able to get my address and everything. But supposedly, with privacy standards, they don't have access to that information. But then, they definitely have your name when you scan the card. When they have your zip code, they can look it up and tie it together, and software does that.
You know,
And
A
that way
plus
they
B
know,
equals C.
oh, now I know that's, Jim Bob, and I can put him on our mailing list because we know he likes to shop at Gander Mountain or whatever it is.
I know a lot of places have asked me for my phone number in the past.
Do you like to give that out, or your email?
Well, usually I tell them to go fuck themselves.
That's a nice way to approach it.
Right. Well, they always look at you like you're a crazy person if you don't give them, if you don't just willingly give
They're
out
so
your information
offended.
to
I
anybody.
know.
I don't even know you. This is the first time we've met. How are we friends enough that you get my phone number? But I mean, it's a lot of those things that it's easy to just rattle off the numbers.
Yeah.
But it's also none of their damn business.
Right. I don't know. It's just, that's it. It's none of their damn business. And they get so annoyed with you. It just frustrates me and whatever, They always ask me, oh, do you mind if I ask? And I'm like, no, I don't mind if you ask.
Go ahead and ask.
They never say anything after that. Because they stare at me waiting for me to give it to them, or I don't know what they're waiting for. But they never ask.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find that a little strange. But anyway, moving right along. So maybe you keep that information private. You're not obligated to give them the information.
And anytime somebody asks for personal information, think about it before you give it out. There are legitimate reasons why somebody might need your personal information. There's also a lot of illegitimate reasons why people will ask for it, though.
Oh. And that's the thing, is honestly, even if they might be doing it for great intentions, and they might want to be able to send you that coupon for Charmin toilet paper or whatever. You're excited about it. You're like, oh, well, I do like coupons.
I do poop a lot.
I've seen that show, where they go in with the coupons and they get $500 worth of groceries, and it's exciting.
They get $3 back.
And $3 back, and they're like, I won, I mean, that's exciting. I like that.
Yeah, why not?
But just the same, you know what? How many times have you gotten a letter from the grocery store, the power company, everybody else, and they're like, oh, we had your information secure, but I just wanted to let you know we may have given it to people. Our employee downloaded everybody's information and then lost the laptop.
Yeah, that happened with Target not too long ago.
That happens.
Not too long after that, my power company actually called me and told me that they had lost that somebody had stolen my information.
I got a similar email, and they said, oh, but guess what? We're going to sign you up for this online, protection company, something like LifeLock.
Right.
It wasn't LifeLock. I don't know who it was. But I was like, giving my information to another company, that just seems like another vulnerable point.
That's another vulnerability.
That I'm out there. Now, LifeLock...
It's fairly easy to watch your information.
LifeLock's a little bit different. LifeLock's a little different where, they're going to help you kind of get it back when it gets stolen. The idea is they're supposed to make your information useless. I like that idea. That's a lot better than somebody who's just going to watch it.
Yeah.
That's... But, it takes me back to when I was in the Navy. I had a bunch of friends who sadly all failed the drug test.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all they all got kicked out, which mysteriously you don't get a dishonorable discharge for failing a drug test. Turns out.
Oh.
No, they have no problem. That's like an easy way out. Now you get a general discharge. That's... I don't know what the hell the difference is.
There is a difference,
but it's not dishonorable.
Yeah.
But it's other than honorable.
Other than honorable.
I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. Bottom line, they all got jobs working for a local, or actually a national security company, installing home alarms in people's houses. And I'm like, wait a minute. And they were like, oh, you should get out. And, come on. I don't want to mention anybody's name. And, they're hiring these people. So these are the people who come into your house and whatever. So I can't help but wonder, the people doing the security stuff,
how secure
are they, because it's one more vulnerable point on the checklist. To me, I think, and maybe I'm making a mistake, but honestly, I try and live my life where credit isn't important to me.
Right.
I try not to have a home mortgage. I don't want to have a car loan. I don't want any of these things. So you may say, well, you need those things and whatever, but you don't.
You don't need that shit.
And so you don't need a great... So if somebody wants to take my identity first,
watching commercials and you start realizing what you actually do need and what you don't need.
I like it. I like the way you're thinking.
Mm.
All right. So
Now, I don't know if you know this, but you probably remember the commercials with the LifeLock guy giving out his Social Security number.
Yes.
He was so proud.
he was.
His shit got wrecked. They wrecked him because everyone took that as a challenge, and they had to stop doing those commercials
I did not know
because
that.
they wrecked his stuff.
He had to
man.
get a new number after
He
that.
had to change everything. A lot of people don't know about that, but that is a fact.
They don't put that in the commercial
don't
now.
advertise your Social Security. That should be the commercial they did with LifeLock. Number one, don't tell everybody what your Social Security number is.
Challenge accepted, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I like it. Now, next thing we have is cell phones. Now, cell phones are pretty much just like another form of internet.
Mm-hmm.
And, we already talked about web browsing. They can collect anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think about cell phones?
Well, I think it's a great way to have a microphone in your pocket at all times.
I do like... Now, it turns out I can have my cell phone here because we're recording this and putting it on the internet.
Right.
So we're good.
We're all right. But, it's something to pay attention to. If somebody wants to listen to you that has access to that sort of level of influence, not saying it's necessarily the government, but, the government, they can listen in on that phone whenever they want. It takes very little reason to get a warrant on somebody to turn that microphone on and start listening to
And are they, I think, something about wireless communications?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, whatever.
And it's easy to call somebody a terrorist. You know what I mean? The criteria for potential terrorist is so little that anybody can be a terrorist.
Yeah.
According to the government.
Now, I was looking on the internet. There was actually another podcast called This Week in Tech, and this is an old article from, or an old podcast from like 2011, and it was Your Phone is Listening. And
that's the name of the podcast.
That was the name of the episode, so you guys might want to check it out. I don't know. But they were talking about apps that can listen to what's going on in your phone without even the app running, or I guess the app is running, but not, actively that you're using it.
Right.
And it's funny because they advertised it as it's not a privacy issue, it's a feature.
Ooh.
See? So it doesn't sound so bad. It's a feature. So the phones would listen to the sounds in your homes or the home or the office or wherever you're at, and they would use it not to collect information about you, but to find out your interests and your likes.
Oh, okay.
And, how they can better serve you.
Good.
And it's really about offering more, more benefit to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually used the quote, "It's the next best thing to reading your mind."
Oh, great.
And that's got to make you feel a little bit safe.
Yeah.
So, anyway, with that said, they actually listed some apps. There was an app called Color. There was one called Shopkick, and Shopkick was some kind of
These are all apps that we should be checking. Make sure we don't have on our phone.
Yeah, you probably don't want that on your phone. Shopkick had a bunch of stores, American Eagle and various stores, and what would happen is when you would go into the store, it would download coupons for you.
Oh, good.
And you're like, well, how does it know that I'm in the store? Well, it's funny you should ask. Because your microphone is always listening. And it listens for a little tone. They have a high-pitched frequency that's broadcasting when you walk in the store. So your phone knows, oh, you're an American Eagle.
That's why you're not allowed to bring your dogs in.
And it downloads.
Early warning devices.
There was another one called Into Now, and I think it was something about like a fan podcast about some what was it? Some TV show, Grey's Anatomy. It was about if people who are into Grey's Anatomy and whatever, and it would listen and somehow know when you're in the neighborhood of other people who like Grey's Anatomy, and it would connect and let you know
We could be friends.
and things. But the point is, it said they listen to sound patterns not sounds. So that made it safer because patterns, that's not like really gathering your information. But they said through it, they could figure out your gender from the voices that it hears. They could roughly generalize your age, your sleep patterns, when it's quiet, when it's not, TV and radio that you're listening to. And this is what they were bragging about, that this is the only information we're collecting. What type of transportation you use to go to and from work. All this information is collected, and it just kind of makes you wonder, gee, if they could do all that, and that's legitimate, then what can people, do that's not legitimate? And it actually reminds me, my boss was telling me, and he likes to, surf the information superhighway, and somehow this got brought to his attention. I have no idea why, but he said that there was actually a website with porn. Who knew? That, that if you downloaded it, it would videotape you while you're watching the porn, and then they would blackmail you and say, we went through your email Rolodex, and it looks like
these are 6 people
this
that
is your wife or whatever.
Porn,
right? And we're gonna, email these people if you don't, send us whatever or do whatever. Send us $500. I guess they figure out your tolerance of, what's acceptable to, I'd shut them up for $500, but, 10,000, let them know about the port, whatever. But I mean, just the fact that people could be doing this, it's not that you need to be thinking everybody's always listening. It's you need to be aware of it. I know you've mentioned on the podcast before about mentioning, taking the battery out of your cell phone.
Right.
Snowden said that whenever he met with people, he'd have them put their phones in the refrigerator. He said it acted like a Faraday cage, where no signals in and out. And I know a lot of people.
Now, refrigerator's still lead lined, or is that?
They're not lead lined, but what it is just between the insulation and the metal walls. I believe it's enough. He felt it was enough. I don't know. I'm not Edward
when
Snowden.
it comes to that sort of stuff, he's probably
he seems to be the authority as far as the people in my circle. I don't know. Now, there is like some expensive options. I'm not big on spending money. I gotta say, I'm willing to put my phone somewhere else where, or like you said, if I'm not worried, I could put it in. They sell these boxes that are Faraday cages. You can put your phone in when you come into the house, and a lot of people will just leave them there so they don't have to worry about it listening to the ongoings in their house and that kind of thing. If you were worried about it to a higher extent, there's a website, Silent Circles company. They make cell phones, and I think they're right now, they used to be like $650. Now I think they're $799. But you know what, honestly, that's what a smartphone costs when you buy it outright anyway.
Right.
They're like $799, and they have ones that are all, encrypted, and they won't connect to Wi-Fi at random and things like that. You can say only connect to the Wi-Fi when I'm at my house or my office or, the different ones. Because you've got to realize your cell phone is always pinging Wi-Fi towers all the time. They're always giving out your location. It always knows where you are. When you open up your map, it knows right what's going on. That kind of thing. So, I mean, if you're willing to spend money, there's ways to protect yourself.
Right.
And things out there.
But a lot of money.
But it's a lot of money. And to me, it's kind of like night vision. I'm not going to spend $600 or $700. It's cool. I'd love it. But I'm afraid. I got better things to spend with my money. And, I'm not sure why silver and gold bars are the better way to go in my mind.
I actually got my kid a toy that was a
night vision
scope.
Yes.
And it was very inexpensive. The only problem was that you could see just about as good with or without it.
Yeah, my boss actually just bought some and was telling me, what he's got there. But anyway, so, and then what else you got? We have drones. Have you considered drones?
Drones.
Now, that's not something, that's kind of a new technology, not something people are really thinking about. Drones.
Now, a character, not more than a few months ago, there was some new construction up the street from me.
Okay.
And he was practicing playing around with one of his drones.
Okay.
Near a medical center.
All right.
and apparently was looking in the windows into this medical center with his drone. That one, they caught him.
He got in trouble.
He got in trouble for that one.
All right.
But how many people are running these things that you don't know about? They could be high enough up that you can't see it with your naked eye.
I mean,
the cameras and the drones are a lot better than your eyes are.
that is true. Now, I don't know. I mean, I again, something you could maybe see, but I mean, I don't know. Things are quiet. These are electric motors. They're up there. They're out there doing its thing. People don't look up.
Yeah.
My experience with, snipers and people that I've dealt with in the military over the years, a lot of times they're sitting where you'd think that they would be able to be seen, but people are not that observant.
Mm-hmm.
People don't pay attention to what's going on around them.
Mm-hmm.
And no, some people might notice it, but other people might not.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just one more level. It's not that prevalent now. It's starting to become more and more. You hear all these stories of people getting screwed with at airports and drones and what is it, the Super Bowl or something. They're trying to set up a perimeter and we don't want anybody, coming in and filming and playing games. Whatever. Now, what I did see is when I was looking into this, I found that there's a couple of ways to stop drones. Now, one of them, they talked about, people going out with their shotguns
we shouldn't shoot them down, is that cool? We can shoot them down?
Local laws suggest no.
No?
It's awkward when they're filming it on their iPhone. A lot of the drones are controlled from their phone. It records it. And they see you out there with the gun in the backyard shooting it down. It's on your property. It's questionable. Now, what I've read is the guy who shoots it down isn't the guy who cares about the local laws, is what I read. So that's a little, unnerving, I guess. They also talked about RF jamming. These are all remote controlled. And turns out the same thing as they have phone jammers. Mm-hmm. You can jam somebody's signal coming to the drone and loses control. And now a lot of them are programmed to just go on when they lose signal. They'll just keep going, in a set pattern or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you could hopefully stop it that way. That is actually illegal. You cannot do that. But that, I don't know. Who's really able to stop you? I mean, how do they have proof of that?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know how I would actually go about RF jamming a drone.
Turns out it's not that complicated.
No?
No.
How would you go about it? How did you do this?
Well, one, you can actually jam RF where you just block kind of every frequency, a big spectrum, and you can block that all the time. They have those. That can be done. You can also, now this is exciting, you can also get a listen for frequencies and then find what frequency is there and then transmit out to block it at that frequency that they're broadcasting on. Again, illegal, not really something we recommend, but then again, if I got people flying drones over my house, maybe it's a problem.
Now, how will we go about it legally taking care of this
legally. Now, the next step, most drones are actually GPS controlled. And they actually know, where they are, satellite positioning, the whole deal. Especially as you get into more expensive drones. But a good percentage are GPS, tracking. Now, there's a website called noflyzone.org. And you can actually go in, put in your address, and have it so that drones can't go around. And, maybe if you're smart, maybe you put in a couple of addresses around you. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly, what the requirements are, proof of identity, if you're that guy. I know a lot of the websites say, are you, you affirm that you're the owner of this property and blah, 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 whatever. Doesn't matter. No fly zone around your house. Not a bad idea. Now, that's one level of protection. Is that going to stop the government? No. Is that going to stop drones?
Wait a minute. Are you saying that the government doesn't always obey the laws? That's crazy. That's crazy talk.
Well, again, with a warrant, doesn't matter anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But even without a warrant, I think that the laws are open to interpretation.
Yeah.
That said, I still would probably get on that website and maybe make a no-fly zone. Now, most of the companies who sell drones participate in updating the software. There's actually a no-fly zone set up around DC and other places, and so it's one more level of protection.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that's going to really stop everyone? No, probably not. Now, the next thing I was thinking about with personal security was Freedom of Information Act.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe it'd be a good idea to look in who's looking into me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went on that website, what a freaking nightmare that is.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out any damn thing.
Well,
I tried to get the information. It said frequently asked questions. And it says, how long will my request take for me to get information? And it said, well, we look into it upon how often, how many requests we get, and we take them in the order received. And that was it.
That was it. Take them
And
in
I'm
the order
like-
received. They have one guy working in the whole country.
I do know that there was one office that received Freedom of Information Act requests. And it may be for the whole thing. I don't know. I heard a story on the radio. And they were saying they only took it through one fax number. And the fax machine broke. And they were doing this. And anyway, it went on for about 4 months that the fax machine was broke. And they were like, yeah, we're waiting for parts for the fax machine.
Parts
So
for
we
the
can't
fax
take
machine.
it. They were waiting on parts.
Wow.
So they were like, yeah, we can't take anymore. And it went for months. And I'm pretty sure that was pretty much it. The only way to request
I have
it.
heard is that it's about a 4-year waiting list.
It's
Now
ridiculous.
the FBI, you might think the FBI doesn't have a file on you. Why would they have a file on you? But they pretty much have a file on everybody.
Exactly.
They probably have a file on you.
And it can be done. You can request it, but damn, they're going to
I've
make
never
you.
heard of anybody
They're going to
actually
punish
getting it.
you. They're
Yeah,
going
I've
to
never
punish you
had
for
heard of
it.
anybody actually getting it.
So
It's like getting a concealed carry permit in New York State.
now, my kid, who I've mentioned in other podcasts, was in history class the other day, and the teacher said anybody whose parents think that the government would try and take away the right to keep guns is just stupid, and they're insane to even think that. There's no reason to believe that the government would be out to get your guns. Needless to say, I was a little...
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I see it in the newspaper all the time.
I keep seeing our president out there.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do everything I can. But, hey, whatever.
I had a neighbor that was a crazy hippie, and he was over at my house talking to me one day, and out of the blue, having a conversation, he said, and people that have guns in their house. We need to put an end to that.
We need to put an end to that.
And, I try and keep a lid on things. I just said, yeah, you're right.
You're
'Cause
right.
I wasn't going to change his mind, and I didn't want him to know what I had in my house.
Exactly. So, with that said, protect yourself, protect your family. Just be aware people are listening, and there's nowhere to hide from, but maybe hang out in the woods without your phone is what I recommend. Maybe take your gun, go out in the woods, find somewhere quiet, and then you can have all the free speech you want. Whatever you want to do, knock yourself out.
Leave your phone behind.
Leave your phone, leave the laptop.
Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend keeping your clothes on in front of the laptop.
Right.
Just good advice. They still sell the magazines, although I'm told that Playboy is getting out of the nudity business.
Yeah,
You've
I'm
heard
very
this?
excited I can get Playboy again because
Playboy
I used
is
to have a subscription, and then my kid turned 10 and wanted to know what boobies look like, so.
Now Playboy's back on the market?
Yeah, now
All
it's
right.
back on the market. They actually do, believe it or not, they actually do have good articles.
Who knew?
Yeah, it actually is. It's
Oh,
pretty interesting.
Yeah, I could dime somebody. Somebody was just telling me about how they're good at reading the articles, but I'm going to keep that safe and keep those secrets. But yeah, so I recommend keep your clothes on in front of the computer. Maybe put the little piece of tape over the camera on your phone. Maybe we're paranoid.
I do spend a lot of time naked in my house. It's my house. My dick can be wherever it
I
wants to be.
figure I want to be out there. If you want to look at it, that's up to you. You know, you want to see me?
Yeah.
Hey, knock yourself
You
out.
want to see my junk? It's only going to make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, it all falls back on you. The only one walking away upset is going to be you. So
I think we're good. I think we covered a lot. There's probably definitely enough space for part 2, part 3, part 5,
part 7,
episodes of these privacy things. If you have any ideas,
keep it off the internet. Keep it off their phone. If you don't want somebody to hear it, you shouldn't be talking about it on the around the technology.
If you have something to hide, you shouldn't be doing it anyway.
That's
what the government says, and that's what Google says.
And I recommend spending cash, because cash is king.
Uh-huh.
And it's one more step in. And the thing is, if you think you're smart, you're using the cash, and then you hand them your Price Chopper card, you're making a mistake.
Everything.
You just canceled it out. So, that said, remember, if it happens, they know about it. Keep it private. That said, we will see you here next week on the Prepping Survival Podcast. Check us out at preppingbadass.com, and we will see you next week.
All right.